What up, Cucks? It's your boy, the hater, up in this piece, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hater, didn't you say you're gonna do a video a day? Yes, I did say that, but when I said that, I lied! You think of my mouth was, I lied! I said. But yeah, my bad. Point is, the hater's been busier than usual, you know what I'm saying? I will get back to doing a video a day. I am going to compensate for all the days that I didn't do videos in since my streak began. I believe I have 10 videos under the quota, so we'll get there. But last night, for the first time in a long time, the hater decided it was time to watch some wrestling, right? So I put on Survivor Series. Now, a couple of things about this show. First of all, I thought the show was complete garbage. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. I thought it was crap, right? Of course, there were good moments, and we're going to talk about them. But perhaps more important than good moments were significant moments, right? But let's get through the whole show before we get to the actual things that we're going to talk about today, right? Now, the show opens up, of course, with one of the War Games matches. There's just no way around it. There's two of them. You really have to start and end with them because you can't put two of these in a row. It's just insane, right? Now, the first match was Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch versus Damage Control. Now, here's the problem with this match. A couple of things. Number one, Shotzi, I like her, all right? I'll be honest. I like her. I like her haircut. She stands out, right? Like, if you look at Damage Control, like, they're all the same. Like, Bayley might look a little bit different, but the rest of them, like the Japanese girls and Dakota, Sky, whatever, what's her last name? Dakota, all of them look the same. They just wear these like flowery bandana-ish type things all over. It's like there's yellow, there's blue, there's pink. It's just a bunch of colorful goofs, right? So this cannot be taken seriously. Shotzi, throughout the whole match, I'm like, wow, like this girl actually is unique. You know what I mean? She has some attitude. She has some character. But her, along with, I believe, Kairi Sane, we're not counting Dakota Kai because she wasn't in the match, were the only two women in this 8-woman match who were not world champions. In fact, they were the only women that are not multiple-time world champions, right? If you count NXT, that is, right? So it's like, what does this mean about the women's division? It means that the women's titles are completely and objectively meaningless, right? It's just nobody cares who the champion is. It doesn't matter. Like, nothing would change if Dakota Sky, or Dakota Kai, I guess, was the champion instead of Io Sky. It would make no difference. If tomorrow Kairi Sane beats Io Sky, god damn it, I keep forgetting these broads' names. Nothing changes. It's the same thing, right? It's like if Becky Lynch is champion, or if Bayley's champion, or if Bianca Belair is champion, nothing changes. It's just one of them is the champion. They don't act any differently when they're champion or when they're not champion. They just wait their turn, they get their shot, and eventually they all become champions, right? Like, don't get it twisted. If Kairi Sane sticks around, she too will become champion. Shotzi too will become champion. They're all going to become champions because the title is completely meaningless. Now, during this match, I also realized that the match itself is just extremely stupid, right? First of all, the entire setup of the match is dumb. 5 minutes for the first time, then 3 minutes, alternating between people coming into the match. The match doesn't start until everyone's in the ring, right? But I'm looking at Wikipedia, so I don't forget anything. It says here the time of the first match was 33 minutes and 35 seconds. Shouldn't it be like 2 minutes, right? Because the first part doesn't count, right? The War Games haven't begun yet. Now, the other part of the match, of the War Games concept, that I think is incredibly stupid, is the rule that if you escape the cage, your team loses, right? Now, these matches are already meaningless because there's nothing on the line, right? Like, nothing happens if you win or if you lose, right? Why would Damage Control, who are heels, care about winning, right? They're after Bianca Belair. Now they have to deal with Becky Lynch and Charlotte and Shotzi. Why doesn't the first one, in this case Bayley, just as soon as she gets the upper hand on Becky Lynch, I think it was the first one on that team, she should just climb out of the cage and just disqualify her team, right? They don't lose anything by losing, right? Doesn't make any sense. Me and one of my buddies that I ran into today were talking about this. He's a big wrestling fan as well. And he was saying, dude, like, it's not like that, right? He was like, it's just two teams. They hate each other. They want to beat each other up. But then we both came to the consensus that while this formula makes sense, like at least it made sense in the past, right? I'll give you a great example. Triple H tries to kill Stone Cold, right? It's like a 1.5 year storyline. Who ran over Stone Cold? It was Rikishi. He did it for The Rock. Then it was revealed that it didn't matter at all. Triple H was the real mastermind behind this, right? So, how do we settle this, right? We do a 3 stages of hell match. We do a gimmick match, right? Because the logic is these guys hate each other so much to the point where one of them tried to murder the other and the other one now wants revenge, that they're going to settle this in a gimmick match where part of the match is you cannot escape, right? The last stage was either Hell in a Cell or it was a cage match. I think it was a Hell in a Cell. I don't know. I don't really care, right? The point is, it made sense, right? When Mick Foley was close to retirement and he becomes Cactus Jack and he challenges Triple H to Hell in a Cell and Triple H has already agreed to it, that's a beautiful moment, right? It's a good story because what's happening here, obviously, is Mick Foley has essentially trapped Triple H into a match where Triple H cannot escape and where DX is theoretically neutralized, right? That's the whole point. You see what I'm saying? The match fits into the storyline. Nowadays, it's the opposite. Now, the storyline has to fit into the match because guess what? It's Survivor Series. What does that mean? That means that it's time for War Games, right? So whether or not anybody really hates each other, right, is immaterial because we need a War Games match. It's War Games, right? Same thing with Hell in a Cell. It doesn't matter if you've built up a significant and a good grudge match that where the payoff is the Hell in a Cell. The payoff is no longer the Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is I can look up right now when the next Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is, and that's that, right? So that's the problem with this. But the bigger problem is that unlike Hell in a Cell, where you're locked in the cell, obviously, and you can't escape, that's the entire gimmick of the match. In this one, it's if you escape, you lose. Okay, I lose. So what? Why would Io Shirai care that she loses to Bianca Belair in this meaningless match, right? She should care about keeping her title, which means she should care about not getting hurt. You can make the argument that the faces have to beat up the heels. So they're willing to put their lives on the line, basically, and do these crazy moves. So, with that being said, the match, I just fell flat for me because of that. But the match itself, the beginning of the match was complete garbage because it was just a bunch of chops and drop kicks and just bad wrestling all around, right? Like, none of these girls really are good. Let's be real, right? Charlotte is like the best one, I would say, right? It's either Charlotte or Io Sky, right? They're the only ones that can actually do things and make them look fluid. Bianca Belair is all right, too, but, they're just really not that good. It's just like Bianca Belair's out there whipping people and, Bayley's, trying to protect herself from the hair of Bianca Belair with a chair. How about this? How about take one hair whip and just bonk her in the head with a chair, right? It's just stupid and it was played out. There were, however, some good spots, namely Io Sky. I keep saying Io Shirai. Io Sky goes all the way up to the cage, puts a trash can on it over her head, and then dives to the bottom, right? She can't see anything. And you know what? The jump to the bottom is whatever. The bigger worry is when she gets up, first of all, her just getting up there was insane. I was like, oh my God, she could just fall, right? And then she puts the thing on her head. And all you need is one moment of dizziness and that could be it, right? So, kudos to her for doing that. In my opinion, the wrong team won. The storyline here seemed to be Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch are friends again. This is completely immaterial because eventually they're going to stop being friends. This is just what happens with the 4 horsewomen, right? Next up, we had Gunther versus Miz. I'm not going to lie, I fast-forwarded this match. I knew there was no chance that The Miz was going to win, right? Even though The Miz deserves to win, so he can become the number 1 Intercontinental Champion of all time, in my opinion, and, surpass the actual reigns that matter, right? Now, that being said, I will say this, right? Gunther won once again. He won with a single leg Boston Crab, basically, right? And it really just, the finish of this match really encapsulates Gunther. He has no real charm, right? This guy hasn't been pinned in 2 years. I don't know why. He was getting his ass beat by Joe Coffey and Pete Dunne. You know what I'm saying? He was losing to Ilya Dragunov, and now The Miz can't beat him. It's absurd. During the match, the moments that I did see, Corey Graves kept bringing up the fact that The Miz is a former champion who beat Cena at WrestleMania. So it's what does this say about Gunther, right? Is Gunther the next Undertaker? No, he isn't. He's just the next Gunther. He's the next Kozlov, right? This is a completely meaningless title reign by Gunther. Who cares, right? It's just earlier today, I Googled Akira Tozawa. I don't know why. I just did, right? Just to read up on his time on Dragon Gate, I guess, right? And it said over there on Wikipedia that Akira Tozawa was a 16-time, 24/7 champion, right? It's just like that. This This has the same meaning as that. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're like a 15-year Intercontinental Champion if all you do is have boring matches that end with a single leg Boston Crab, right? And I know what the nerds are thinking. Hater, that's realistic. Gunther beats people with regular moves. That's the problem. Gunther has no flash, no flair, and he's not entertaining, right? I don't care. I don't want to see someone use a single leg Boston Crab. That's lame. This is in the 80s and the 70s, right? I want to see people do cool moves like suplexes, throws, and more importantly, unique moves, right? Think about how over the RKO is, more on that later, right? Versus how over any of Gunther's moves are. You don't even know what Gunther's moves are. He has a botchy powerbomb and apparently now single leg Boston Crab. Maybe he worked Mrs. back the whole time. I could care less. I skipped a match and I'm happy I did. Another match that I skipped was Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. I skipped it for the exact same reasons. I knew for a fact that Santos Escobar was going to win, right? This match and this feud is going to lead nowhere, right? I don't care if Santos Escobar beats Rey Mysterio clean at WrestleMania. The probability that at the WrestleMania after that Rey Mysterio is going to be on the card is pretty high unless he retires, right? The probability that Santos Escobar will be in the company is pretty low. The probability that Santos Escobar will be at WrestleMania the year after this one, if he goes and wrestles Rey Mysterio, is zero. There is a 0 chance, basically. It's like a 1% chance that Santos Escobar will even be on the pre-show, right? So it's completely meaningless. I don't care if Santos Escobar beats Mysterio. It's just like all the other jobbers, like Del Rio, everybody else that has beaten Mysterio, and then they go wrestle for like, Puerto Rico Wrestling Extravagante, right? Meanwhile, Rey Mysterio grows his legend. So it doesn't matter. I knew that Dragon Lee was a replacement for Carlito. I would have watched it if it was Carlito, just because Carlito's Carlito. But apparently it wasn't. It was Santos Escobar. He beat the jobber Dragon Lee. I've never seen someone's stock fall more than Dragon Lee's, in my opinion, right? Next up, we had Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark. This match bored me to death. By the end, I was like, I couldn't wait for this to end. I also fast-forwarded most of this, if I'm being honest, right? Basically what happens is Zoe Stark goes for a finishing move, misses, Rhea Ripley hits the riptide and pins her. Nothing special, nothing exciting at all. Now, thus far, I give this event a C-, right? For better or for worse, the first War Games match, because of Io Sky's incredible dive, right? I have to give that props, right? That match was a B+ for me, right? Everything else in that match was a D-, but that was an A+ moment, and that carries it to a B+, I'll say, right? Because it was a big A+ moment. That was one of the craziest spots I've ever seen in terms of just the danger, right? The fact that this girl is willing to basically jump with her eyes closed in a moment where one misstep could be the end of her life is just insane. One of the highest risk things I've ever seen. Now, it's time for the men's main event. Now, unlike the women's War Games match, a lot of the people in this match are not champion, and in my opinion, should never be champions, right? I don't count Finn Balor's meaningless title reign. I don't think Damian Priest should be champion. At this point, I barely count Drew McIntyre's title reign. JD McDonough should never be champion. Dominic Mysterio is the only one here that should be a champion. Obviously, Randy Orton is one of the GOATs. Cody Rhodes should never be champion. Seth Rollins is the champion. Jey Uso and Sami Zayn are just undercard jobbers that shouldn't even be in this company, but that's neither here nor there. The match starts. It's boring. I'm not being entertained at all. You know why? I'll tell you why. The entire point of this match is Randy Orton is coming up, obviously, last, right? Now, they did a thing that was very predictable, and that is they didn't put Randy Orton in the cage, obviously, right? Randy Orton is not going to wait in a cage with the likes of Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's Randy Orton, right? He's going to come whenever the hell he wants, right? And in order to maximize his pop, he can't come out, the people cheer, and then he goes in a cage. That takes away from everything. So, obviously, the announcers and the writers, instead of just essentially accepting this and just being like, Randy Orton does whatever he wants, they twisted it as like, oh, will Randy Orton be there? Like, whatever. Obviously, he's going to be there. You've announced him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you had plans to do it. So, basically, what happens is, this was kind of interesting. At one point, Damian Priest hits the Razor's Edge on a table. He puts Seth Rollins to a table, and he's about to cash in. Rhea Ripley comes out with the briefcase. Now, this finally makes sense, right? This answers the question that I asked earlier. Why would these people be in this match? Well, the good guys want to beat up the Judgment Day, right? The Judgment Day wants to beat up Seth Rollins so that Damian Priest can cash in, right? That makes perfect sense. That's logical, right? Obviously, as Rhea Ripley's about to go give the briefcase to the timekeeper or the announcer or whomever, right? Randy Orton's music hits, everyone goes nuts. Randy Orton comes out looking like a super heavyweight. I've never seen Orton in better shape. This was insane. He had like an 8-pack that was bulging out. Like this guy's just been lifting, and God knows what he's been eating. You know what I'm saying? This whole time, probably definitely TRT, I would imagine, right? So he comes out looking like $1 million, right? He's standing next to Drew McIntyre, and like he's like comparable to Drew McIntyre in size. And Drew McIntyre is a giant, right? When they had Drew McIntyre next to Damian Priest, and Randy Orton was there too, it's like you could just see the difference between Damian Priest and Randy Orton. It's like night and day, right? Damian Priest looks like a guy, he looks like the dork that he probably is. Randy Orton looks like a real man, and Damian Priest is just there. Like, he's a big guy. Obviously, compared to JD McDonough, he's huge. But compared to Randy Orton, he's not. And Randy Orton is a guy that was never like a big guy. Like, he was never known to be this big guy. In fact, many people that I respect have always said that Randy Orton should represent the minimum of what someone should be to become World Heavyweight Champion. The minimum, right? Stone Cold, The Rock, they all have a better look. Now, Randy Orton is in better shape than Stone Cold ever will be or ever was. Randy Orton is in better shape than The Rock ever was as a wrestler. And even now, probably. Randy Orton is like an elite wrestler, but nevertheless, he comes out there, he does his spots, nothing crazy. He hits an RKO on Dominic. Then eventually they do like a spot that I saw coming a mile away. I didn't think it was that great. They basically, some good guys, throw JD McDonough off the top of the cell right into an RKO. Now, in order to push forward the narrative that Cody Rhodes must win the match because Dusty invented the match, Randy Orton throws Damian Priest to Cody. Crossroads, 1, 2, 3, match is over. The match was mid. I didn't enjoy it. I knew that it would end the way it was going to end because Randy Orton's not coming in to lose. The only thing that I thought could happen is Randy Orton comes out, just like, I don't know, like at the most critical moment, RKO's Cody and just gets out of the cage, right? Causing a DQ. It doesn't matter though. The point is, nobody cares who won the match. The point is, Randy Orton was going to get the upper hand. Like, so it doesn't matter how he gets it, right? You sometimes have to think deeper than the actual match. Then, CM Punk comes out. But more on that next video. Cuckolds.